आज का ये जो आयोजन भाषण प्रतियोगिता यहाँ पर आयोजित की जा रही है, हम सभी जानते हैं कि ग्रुप 20 का समारोह G20 समारोह पूरे देश भर में बड़े धूमधाम से चल रहे हैं और इसी कड़ी में आकाशवाणी ने भी अनेक कार्यक्रमों के आयोजन किए हैं और उसी श्रृंखला का आज का हमारा ये कार्यक्रम सर्वप्रथम हिमाचल प्रदेश के आकाशवाणी और दूरदर्शन के क्लस्टर हेड और उप महानिदेशक आकाशवाणी श्री गुरविंदर सिंह जी, प्रधानाचार्य राजीव गांधी गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज कोटशेरा डॉक्टर अनुपमा गर्ग जी, वाइस प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर शिखा जोशी जी, कार्यक्रम प्रमुख अनिल वर्मा जी, कार्यक्रम प्रमुख डीडी हिमाचल श्री अमरेंद्र कुमार जी, निर्णायक मंडल में शामिल श्री जौहर कौल जी, निर्णायक मंडल में शामिल आरती सूद जी, उप निदेशक अभियांत्रिकी श्री अनिल कुमार जी। मेरा विनम्र आग्रह है क्लस्टर हेड आकाशवाणी एवं दूरदर्शन केंद्र हिमाचल प्रदेश और उप महानिदेशक आकाशवाणी श्री गुरविंदर सिंह जी, प्रधानाचार्य राजीव गांधी राजकीय महाविद्यालय डॉक्टर अनुपमा गर्ग जी, कार्यक्रम प्रमुख डीडी हिमाचल श्री अमरेंद्र कुमार जी, वाइस प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर शिखा जोशी जी और उपनिदेशक आकाशवाणी श्री अनिल कुमार जी, आकाशवाणी शिमला के कार्यक्रम प्रमुख अनिल वर्मा जी से आग्रह है कृपया आप तमाम विशिष्ट मेहमानों को मंच पर लेकर आएं। जजेस साहिबान में शामिल जौहर कौल जी और आरती जी से भी मेरा आग्रह है कृपया आप भी दीप प्रज्वलन की इस परंपरा में शामिल हों। अब मैं आग्रह करूंगा स्वागत उद्बोधन के लिए हमारे पथ प्रदर्शक आकाशवाणी एवं दूरदर्शन केंद्र हिमाचल प्रदेश के क्लस्टर हेड एवं उप महानिदेशक आकाशवाणी श्री गुरविंदर सिंह जी से कृपया अपने आशीर्वचनों से हमारा मार्गदर्शन करें।
जैसा कि हम सभी जानते हैं कि हमारे देश ने इस साल G20 देशों के समूह की अध्यक्षता की। ये हम सब के लिए बड़े गर्व की बात है। इस उपलक्ष्य में देश भर में अनेक कार्यक्रम आयोजित किए गए। प्रसार भारती द्वारा भी देश में अलग अलग केंद्रों पर विभिन्न कार्यक्रम किए गए। इसी कड़ी में आकाशवाणी शिमला द्वारा जुलाई में गेटी थिएटर में लोकगीत एवं संगीत का कार्यक्रम आयोजित किया गया। G20 शिखर सम्मेलन का 8 से 10 सितंबर तक नई दिल्ली में सफलतापूर्वक आयोजन किया गया, जिसमें G20 देशों के सभी प्रमुखों ने भाग लिया। आज के इस कार्यक्रम समारोह का आयोजन पिछले महीने करने का प्रस्ताव था, लेकिन प्रदेश में आई प्राकृतिक आपदा के चलते इसे पोस्टपोन किया गया। मैं प्रिंसिपल महोदया का विशेष आभार व्यक्त करता हूं, जिन्होंने इस प्रतियोगिता को इस कॉलेज में करने का अवसर दिया तथा साथ ही आयोजन में भरपूर सहयोग किया। मैं आशा करता हूं कि सभी प्रतियोगी इस आयोजन में बढ़ चढ़कर भाग लेंगे। आकाशवाणी शिमला की ओर से मैं प्रतियोगिता के सभी माननीय जजेस का स्वागत करता हूं तथा सभी प्रतियोगियों को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। धन्यवाद।
आज के इस आयोजन में हमारे शिमला के 6 शिक्षण संस्थानों के बच्चे पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं और हर संस्थान से 2-2 बच्चे इसमें शामिल होंगे, क्योंकि अक्सर ये दुविधा रहती है कि सर्वप्रथम कौन बोलेगा, दूसरे नंबर पर कौन बोलेगा, आखिर में कौन बोलेगा, इसीलिए ड्रॉ ऑफ लॉट्स का आयोजन किया जा रहा है। जी, तो आप सबके सामने ये निर्णय हो चुका है कि सर्वप्रथम सेंट बीट्स कॉलेज के जो छात्र छात्रा हैं वो अपना यहाँ भाषण प्रस्तुत करेंगे। नंबर 2 पर यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ लीगल स्टडीज़, नंबर 3 सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस गवर्नमेंट डिग्री कॉलेज संजौली, नंबर 4 यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, नंबर 5 राजकीय कन्या महाविद्यालय, और अतिथि देवो भव का आदर्श वाक्य का निर्वहन करते हुए होस्ट कॉलेज सबसे लास्ट में, यानी नंबर 6 पर। मैं माननीय जजेस साहिबान से और हमारे आकाशवाणी दूरदर्शन क्लस्टर हेड हिमाचल श्री गुरबिंदर जी से अनुमति चाहूँगा कि आज का ये कार्यक्रम हम आरंभ करें। सर्वप्रथम सेंट बीट्स कॉलेज की नीतिका ठाकुर।
Now you must be wondering, why do we need an inclusive economic growth after all? Because if we keep up the current rate, will we not become the third largest economy by 2047, as was predicted by the leading investment bank, Morgan Stanley? Because apparently, all we require is a surge in our GDP. Well, let me answer that for you. About 14.96% of our population still lives below poverty line. And though this percentage might sound small in a dangerously populated country like India, it amounts to a staggering total of 21 crore Indian citizens. You can well imagine the gap between the haves and have-nots. We need inclusive economic growth to reduce this gap, so that the people belonging to rural areas don't feel any inferior to those in urban areas when applying for, say, same employment opportunities. And, ladies and gentlemen, it is these regional inequalities that are the cause for the rise in distress migration, either interstate or intrastate. Distress migration further creates problems of housing, accommodation, safety, hygiene, and sanitation. We need inclusive economic growth so that females are no longer treated subordinates to their male counterparts and are both socially and financially independent. Whereas government programs like Manrega, Digital India, Skill India, Atal Pension Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Setu, etc. are the initiatives taken by the Indian government to make our economy more inclusive. But I'm afraid, due to time constraint, I might not be able to cover all of them. In the race against time towards smarter development, we, human beings, are turning a blind eye to the repercussions that our actions have on our environment. The climatic havoc that the states of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand have witnessed this year is not primarily due to climate change, but due to our ignorance towards sustainability. It is high time that we understand the importance of inclusive economic growth. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
अब यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ लीगल स्टडीज की रितिका चंब्याल।
The sound of free-flowing streams, the sound of birds chirping in the trees. Watching children play on a frozen pond, I hope our future generations will still have these things to be thankful for. A very warm and refreshing morning to all the excellences present over here. This is Ritika Chambyal, and today I'm going to speak on climate change and renewable energy. The changes in atmospheric conditions for a shorter duration is known as weather, whereas the same for a longer duration is known as climate. Climate change, or should I call it climate crisis. We started breaking the levels of CO2 back in the year 1950, and we haven't stopped since. We are burning more fossil fuels. We are using more animal products. So all these gases, when released in the air, and when sunlight enters into the Earth's atmosphere, some of the heat gets trapped, which makes the Earth's surface warmer. This is known as greenhouse effect, major cause of climate crisis. But again, this is not the main concern. The main concern is that it is happening far too quickly. You all must be aware about the extensive heat waves that hit large areas of Europe, United States, and Southern Asia. Let me draw your attention towards some statistics. About 930 million people are expected to be pushed into poverty by the year 2030 due to climate change, as per World Bank reports. About 430 million children will die of starvation due to climate change, as per UNICEF. In Ukraine, people along with their children jumped into ocean to escape raging wildfires. And all this is just a trailer. But it is sufficient enough to scare us all. And if you're not scared, then you don't really understand where we stand as a species. That's why it has been a hot topic in G20. Here, I would like to give some suggestions to combat this crisis. My first and the most important suggestion is the use of renewable energy. By shifting the energy production to non-carbon sources, we can reduce CO2 emissions. For that, we need to work in 3 fields: water, wind, and solar. I believe water and solar to be more reliable. We can construct better generators as well as solar panels that will provide maximum efficiency even in the insulation areas. I believe India needs to work in 4 areas that need innovations. First being mitigation technologies. It includes anything that can reduce the effect of greenhouse gases, such as installation of artificial trees and cost-effective energy. Second being adaptation technologies, so that we can adapt to the ever-changing climate of the world, like appropriate changes in the crops. Third is policy innovation. India needs an action plan. We have to boost the construction of efficient buildings, cool roofs, and the use of electric vehicles. We need a proper legal framework. We need proper statutes, such as the odd even rule in Delhi. And finally, awareness innovation. By educating people, we can make them understand about the sensitivity and the gravity of the issue. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres stated that the era of global warming has ended, but the era of global boiling has started. Bangladesh is set to submerge under the oceans by the end of this century. All of us who are present in this room will probably still be alive to witness the fate of 150 million people when sea reclaims land on which we all depend. So it all falls down to all of us to change our ways and shake things up. Or else, climate change is going to do it for us. Thank you so much.
यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ लीगल स्टडीज़ की रितिका चंब्याल के बाद सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस गवर्नमेंट डिग्री कॉलेज संजौली की आस्था शर्मा को मैं मंच पर आमंत्रित कर रहा हूँ.
In the words of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, I quote, "I come from a land where the idea of the world being one family is rooted in our ethos. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam," I unquote. But what exactly Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means is to consider the whole world as my own family. Greetings, everyone. I'm Astha Sharma from Center of Excellence, Government College, Sanjoli. And today, I stand here to present my views on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. You know, we live in Bharat, a country that's famous for its rich cultural traditions, beliefs, and customs. And therefore, the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is deeply embedded in the Indian philosophy. It reflects our inclusive traditions. And remember, while the world was busy struggling with the chaotic after effects of this once-in-a-century pandemic, India came up with the historic presidency of G20, giving hope that we can still make the world a better place, with the theme Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. It brings out the approach of a shared global growth while being in harmony with nature. And India is working to get the world together for a better objective, as these values and ethos of Bharat clear the path for world progress. If we flip through the pages of history, India has never invaded a country. Instead, it has always and always lent a helping hand to the sufferers of war. But today, the world is a divided house. There is no unanimity on various issues. Well, India, in terms of its political diplomacy, is known for its core democratic values. And I firmly believe, my friends, that the importance of the presidency of India's G20 summit comes into play where India can provide a neutral environment where the entire world can come together as one big family. As the presidency of India's G20 summit is the presidency of hope, it's a chance to show the world who we truly are and to convey the message of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One earth, one family, one future. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Namaskar.
अब मैं आमंत्रित कर रहा हूं यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी UIIT की आहाना भारद्वाज को.
I believe humankind has looked at climate change as it's once a fiction happening to another planet. But to be honest, people are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystem is collapsing. We are in the beginning of mass extinction and all we talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. Climate change has caused a lot of problems, such as hotter temperatures, leading to wildfires, increase in droughts, more severe storms. Ice and glaciers are melting, leading to rise in the water levels of oceans and seas. A study has also been found that some cities, like Jakarta, are on the verge of sinking. Poverty and health risks. Climate change is majorly caused by the emission of the greenhouse gases. Most of intervention efforts meant to mitigate the impact of climate change targets the human activities which contribute to the additional emission of the greenhouse gases. Countries like Syria, Somalia, and Turkey have faced massive earthquakes, droughts, and extreme wildfires. USA has been facing extreme storms, and I believe humankind must be held accountable for the wanton destruction of a collective home. We only get one planet, one Earth. We won't get any other. In the end, I would like to say, we are the first generation to feel climate change and the last generation to do something about it. Thank you.
मंच पर आमंत्रित कर रहा हूं राजकीय कन्या महाविद्यालय की अगली प्रतिभागी राधिका शर्मा को.
I am proud to belong to a nation which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. I am proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted, the refugees of all religions and all nations. And I am proud to belong to a nation which is leading G20 under the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. India has truly proved the relativity and practicality of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam by helping 150 affected countries during the COVID, by taking part in 49 peacekeeping missions exceeding a total contribution of 2 lakh troops, by promoting yoga as a global heritage, by sharing its resources with other developing countries, and recently by converting G20 to G21 by adding African Union. My India has surely demonstrated its global leadership and vision of making Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam a possible reality. Even our nature preaches the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It tells us how the Himalayas have been an important source to many of the world's great rivers, like Ganga, Yangtze, Mekong. It tells us how the Amazon forests are sheltering thousands of species of plants and animals. It tells us how we living beings are interconnected and interdependent. Interestingly, the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is showing resemblance to the thoughts of great personalities like Leo Tolstoy, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, and is resonating with the African philosophy Ubuntu. I am because we are, emphasizing on the universal bond that links the entire humanity. Talking about the challenges faced by the philosophy, there are 2. Realism and unity in diversity. Family is regarded as a highly functional unit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? Yet, surprisingly, this functional unit resides the most biggest question inside it. Who is the head of the family? How will the power be shared among various nations and leaders? These questions point towards the fact that realism is still standing strong against the philosophy. Coming on to the main challenge, unity in diversity, the toughest and the hardest one to overcome. Why? because we human beings are not ready to leave behind our low-level barriers of caste, creed, gender, region, religion, etc. I am a Hindu, she is a Muslim, he is a Sikh. We all need to leave this mentality because it's high time to recognize the things that are binding us together and dividing us. At last, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not a pacifist concept. It encompasses the idea of tolerance, yet tolerance does not mean inaction. Even Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita tells Arjun to fight as it is his duty to protect dharma. A recourse to use of force or even war is not ruled out, but the war comes after every effort to avoid it has been failed. Finally, concluding my topic with the chants of famous Hindu prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu nirame, sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukh bhag bhavet. Thank you and have a nice day.
अब मैं आग्रह करूंगा राजीव गांधी गवर्नमेंट डिग्री कॉलेज कोटशिरा की सुलक्षणा ठाकुर से।
देश की सीमाओं से बाहर ना झांकने वाले, एक ही दायरे से बाहर सबको पराया समझने वाले पश्चिमी समाज को स्वामी विवेकानंद के शिकागो भाषण में कहे गए सिस्टर्स एंड ब्रदर्स ऑफ अमेरिका, ये विचार एक कल्चरल शॉक की तरह झकझोर गए। उन्हें विश्वास ही नहीं हुआ कि हजारों मील दूर से आया हुआ एक व्यक्ति, जिससे ना तो रक्त का संबंध है, ना संस्कार का, ना भाषा का, ना भाव का, फिर वह उन्हें कैसे सिस्टर्स एंड ब्रदर्स के संबोधन से पुकार सकता है। यही रहस्य आज तक विश्व के बड़े से बड़े बुद्धिजीवी समझ नहीं पाए। तभी तो भारत सभी को कैसे पराये से अपना बना लेता है। वसुधैव कुटुंबकम हमारी संस्कृति थी और रहनी चाहिए। स्वामी विवेकानंद ने कहा था और हमें भी इसे साथ लेकर चलना है, सिस्टर्स एंड ब्रदर्स। पश्चिमी देश वाले हमें तीसरी दुनिया कहकर बुलाते हैं, लेकिन हमारे लिए कोई दूसरी या तीसरी दुनिया नहीं है, बल्कि हमारी दुनिया में तो सभी सिमट जाते हैं। छोटे बड़े, काले गोरे, पशु पक्षी, नदियां, सागर, सभी। वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, एक धरती, एक परिवार, एक भविष्य। यही प्राचीन विचार आज आधुनिक भारत को एक नई राह की ओर ले जाएगा। और इसका उदाहरण अभी वर्तमान समय में नई दिल्ली में हुए शिखर सम्मेलन G20 में देखने को मिला, जिसका विषय था वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, एक धरती, एक परिवार, एक भविष्य। और उसमें भारत के प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय श्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने क्या खूब कहा है, हमारा प्रयास रहेगा कि विश्व में कोई भी फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड या थर्ड वर्ल्ड ना हो, बल्कि वन वर्ल्ड हो, यानी पूरा विश्व एक परिवार। और इसके लिए हम सबको मिलकर प्रयास करना होगा, हम सभी को एक साथ कदम बढ़ाना होगा। हमारे द्वारा उठाया गया प्रत्येक कदम, प्रत्येक प्रयास आने वाले समय में हमारी दिशा और दशा क्या होगी, यह निर्धारित करेगा। हमें समाज को बदलने से पहले खुद को बदलना होगा, तभी हमारा समाज बदलेगा और यही विश्व कल्याण का मार्ग प्रशस्त करेगा। अंततः अपने वक्तव्य को संस्कृत के एक श्लोक के साथ विराम देना चाहूंगी। अयम निजः परोवेति गणना लघुचेतसाम उद्धार चरितानाम तु वसुधैव कुटुंबकम। यह अपना है या पराया है, इस प्रकार की गणना छोटे हृदय वाले लोग रखते हैं। उदार हृदय वाले लोगों के लिए तो समस्त धरती एक ही परिवार है। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
मैं अनुरोध कर रहा हूं सेंट पीटर्स कॉलेज की दूसरी प्रतिभागी।
So now let's have a look at what our ancient scriptures have to say about it. The Bhagavad Gita. It underscores that there is unity amongst all living beings, as God resides in all. It says that the essence of man's nature, or the Subhava, is divine, which is same in all. And the differences that we see between one person and the other is merely because of their acquired nature, or the samskaras, which are different in every person. The earth, our earth, ladies and gentlemen, is not just a resource to be exploited. It is a shared home for all living beings. And as we witness the growing ecological crisis, it is imperative for us to adopt sustainable practices and work together to preserve our planet for the future generation. The global adoption of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam also entails in promoting cultural exchange and understandings. By celebrating our differences and sharing our rich cultural heritages, we can foster a more inclusive and tolerant world. Cultural diversity should be seen as a source of strength and enrichment, rather than a source of division. The philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam offers a guiding light in a world often characterized by division and conflict. And by adopting the values of unity, harmony, and tolerance, we can foster a more inclusive, harmonious, and sustainable world. So let us all extend hands of friendship to every corner of the world, because even after all the differences and divisions, we are one world, we are one family, and we do have one future. Thank you.
अब मैं आग्रह कर रहा हूँ यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ लीगल स्टडीज़ की हर्षिता गुप्ता जी से.
In the great parliament of Chicago, Swami Vivekananda's words were, "Brothers and sisters of USA." These words felt like a tongue of fire, not because these words were said by an ordinary man, but by great Sanatan Dharam Sanskrit, which says, "Aham nij paro veti ganana laghu chetasam uddhar chitrantu vasudhaiv kutumbakam." A very warm good afternoon to esteemed judges, my fellow participants, and every individual present here. Today, I, Harshita Gupta, from University Institute of Legal Study, stand hereby to dwell my views, my emotions on the topic Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Thousands years ago, in a great Indian Sanskrit, the great Indian scholars wrote Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which means whole world is one. India not only preaches but also practices Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. During G20 presidency, India adopted multilateral world in which not a single one country will advocate the other, but whole world will work as a one family. When China dominated the Indo-Pacific world, India rushed to help the ASEAN countries. When Turkey, Syria were hit by the deadly earthquake, India was first to provide them medical aid. During the time of the pandemic of COVID-19, India was first country to provide free vaccines to more than 110 countries. Here India proved India not only preaches but practices one world, one family, one future. When nature itself doesn't distinguish between us, then why we do so? The sun doesn't rise according to the nations. Moon doesn't shine according to the territories. Then why we do so? We, the people, fight on the basis of caste, creed, color, nation, language. But why we forget to remember that we belong to Mother Earth? It is a social philosophy that whole world is governed by a single life energy. It is rightly said, कोई हिंदू, कोई मुस्लिम तो कोई ईसाई, सब ने इंसान ना बनने की कसम है खाई. When Paramatma is one, how could Atmas be different? If Atmas are different, how could it at last dissolve in Paramatma? If whole ocean is one, how could a single droplet of ocean be different? In our constitution, in our preamble, there is a provision and there is an acceptance of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. At last, I would like to end and conclude my topic with a quote. ये सारा संसार परिवार है हमारा, वसुधैव कुटुंबकम है हमारा नारा. Thank you. जय भारत, जय हिंद.
अब मैं मंच पर आमंत्रित कर रहा हूँ सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंसी गवर्नमेंट डिग्री कॉलेज संजौली की नीतिका धीमान को.
So during the G20 summit, the Indian government aimed on strengthening the international collaboration and cooperation in the field of technology. And one such step was the launching of GDHP, Global Digital Health Partnership, in collaboration with other member countries. So this GDHP, ladies and gentlemen, aims to improve the access to and the use of digital technology in the field of healthcare. Now there's a proverb that says, in times of turbulence, the greatest danger is not the turbulence itself, but to act with yesterday's logic. And I firmly believe that it is quite justifiable in the current world that we are living in. How much eased up our lives feel. But if we encounter this thought, say, a decade or two ago, probably it wouldn't have bothered us that much. But now the idea of being detached from technology feels like a bizarre thought altogether. Unfortunately, dear friends, the universal truth of every coin having two sides is a bit difficult to deny. So we must ask ourselves, what happens to those who are left behind in this digital race? How do we, as individuals and as a society as well, ensure that these developments and advancements do not exacerbate the already existing social inequalities? This is the question that needs to be addressed, ladies and gentlemen. And in the current times of artificial intelligence taking up most of the jobs, and on top of it, especially in a country like India that tops the population list, it is our responsibility to ensure that technology remains a tool for empowerment, not a source for manipulation. This coexistence and relationship between the human race and technology reminds me of a very beautiful poem written by Richard Brautigan, and all watched over by machines of loving grace. I like to think, and the sooner the better, of a cybernetic meadow filled with pines and electronics, where deers stroll peacefully past computers, as if they were flowers with spinning blossoms. I like to think, it has to be, of a cybernetic ecology where we are free of all our labors and returned back to nature, joined our brothers, mammals and sisters, and all watched over by machines of loving grace. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.
और अब मैं आग्रह कर रहा हूँ यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी की आरुषि सेमवाल से, कृपया मंच पर आएं.
The scientists of the ISRO take evidences from the many Vedic Purans, such as the speed of the sun, the speed of the earth, the shape and the position of the planets in their mission like the Chandrayaan-3, Mars, Aditya L1 and many more. The most current example of the digital transformation is digital transaction through the currency notes. Here now, the money is transferred in the air, which is based upon the concept of cloud computing. The digital transformation lead to the digital innovation. The science and the engineers make possible to enable computers to think like a human brain. And export engines like the Google Assistants, Apple Siri, Samsung Bixby virtual assistants, online chatbots like the Chat GPTs, and the Netflix video recommendation capably uses the concept of natural language processing to process the speech recognition and automatic recommendation engines. The technology has many advantages, like it reduces the human error. It is available 24/7 and it is capable of doing the repeated jobs. But the technology cuts the technology. If we have air-to-air missiles, we have also the anti-ballistic missile defense system. If we have the malicious softwares like the Trojan horses and the viruses, we have also the spyware software like the Pegasus and the concept of firewall and the gatekeeper functions. So at last, I will leave you with the question that it is always good to lead the technology, but it is good to let the technology to lead the human brains. Think upon it, search upon it. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.
राजकीय कन्या महाविद्यालय की पारुल जरहंगटा अब मंच पर तशरीफ ला रही हैं।
भारतीय संस्कृति के मूल मंत्र वसुधैव कुटुंबकम से सर्वप्रथम स्वामी विवेकानंद ने हमें परिचित करवाया था। उनका कहना था, विश्व एक व्यायामशाला है जहां हम खुद को मजबूत बनाने के लिए आते हैं। आज हमें एक ऐसी शक्ति दिखाने का अवसर प्राप्त हुआ है जो शक्ति किसी हथियार की शक्ति नहीं है और ना ही किसी पर दबाव या राज करने की शक्ति। वह शक्ति तो अहम ब्रह्मस्मि से वसुधैव कुटुंबकम को अपनाने की है। भारत ने महज वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की नीति को बोला ही नहीं है, इसे निभाया भी है। फिर चाहे बात अफगानिस्तान संकट के समय सभी की सुरक्षित वापसी हो या यूक्रेन में फंसे भारतीयों को वापस लाने की हो। हाल ही में भारत ने श्रीलंका की मदद करके यह साबित कर दिया कि भारत ने हर मोर्चे पर खड़े होकर सभी की मदद की है। और जब वैश्विक महामारी कोरोना ने सभी देशों को अकेला कर दिया, उस समय भारत ने कई उन देशों की मदद की जो भारत की ओर उम्मीद लगाए बैठे थे। सिर्फ भारत ने वैक्सीन और दवाएं ही नहीं, उन्हें अन्य चिकित्सा उपकरण भी उपलब्ध करवाए और बंधुत्व मैत्री की भावनाओं से पूरे देश को अवगत करवाया। अतः वसुधैव कुटुंबकम को अमल में लाने के लिए हम सभी को आज वैर भाव भुलाकर वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की नीति को अपनाने की आवश्यकता है। कुल मिलाकर हम कह सकते हैं कि अगर अपनी भिन्नता से ऊपर उठे, उदार चरित्र बने, सभी धर्मों से बढ़कर मानवता को एक धर्म माने, घृणा आदि भेदभाव को भूले, तो उसी दिन सच्ची मानवता का उदय होगा और वसुधैव कुटुंबकम का सपना साकार होगा। अंत में बस इतना ही कहना चाहूंगी, वसुधैव कुटुंबकम यही हमारा मंत्र है, विश्व में विख्यात अपना एक गणतंत्र है। मिट्टी के हर तिनके से जुड़ाव होना चाहिए, हर व्यक्ति साथ सब मिट्टी के हर तिनके से जुड़ाव होना चाहिए। सभी लोग लोग नहीं एक परिवार होना चाहिए, सभी लोग लोग नहीं एक परिवार होना चाहिए। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
राजीव गांधी गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज कोटशिरा की महक पंडित से कृपया मंच पर आएं और अपने विचार साझा करें।
To achieve one earth, one family, one future, we must combat climate change, redouble our efforts to limit the global warming well below 2 degrees Celsius to 1.5 degrees Celsius, invest in renewable energies, emissions, and support adaptation changes, preserve biodiversity, protect and restore our ecosystem, halt deforestation, and support healthy agriculture and fishing practices to safeguard our ecosystem. Global vaccine equity, ensuring that our vaccines are also available to the whole world because our safety is interlinked to all the health of country. Economic equity, promote economic growth, inequality of income, and helping other developing countries to ensure that they also have a supple economy. Education and innovation, invest in education, research, and innovation, and prepare our youth for future challenges that we have to tackle. Last but not least, I would like to conclude by saying that let us welcome the theme that is One Earth, One Family, One Future with our open hearts and minds, and recognize that the problems we share are shared and the solutions we seek must be collaborative. Together we can create a future where our earth thrives, global family flourishes, and one future with unity, hope, and sustainability. Our collective actions can save our earth and future generation. Thank you. Have a nice day.
आग्रह करूंगा राजीव गांधी गवर्नमेंट डिग्री कॉलेज कोटशिरा की प्राचार्य डॉक्टर अनुपमा गर्ग जी से कृपया मंच पर आएं और हमारा मार्गदर्शन करें।
रिस्पेक्टेड गुरबिंदर सिंह जी, क्लस्टर हेड आकाशवाणी शिमला एवं दूरदर्शन, टीम AIR और दूरदर्शन, डॉक्टर शिखा जोशी हमारे वाइस प्रिंसिपल, esteemed faculty members, guests from other colleges, dear students. This past 1.5 hours has been very, very enriching as well as invigorating. This session on topics related to the G20 summit. Well, what is G20? It is a group of 19 most advanced economies of the world plus the European Union And now the introduction of the African Union on behest of India. African Union actually is a combination of 55 advancing economies, and this was actually the theme of this year's summit, that is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. That is, there is inclusiveness of the third world countries into the G20 summit. Well, the aim of G20 summit is simply to formulate policies amongst its members for sustainable growth and economic stability. What was primarily discussed in the 3 days of the G20 summit was issues related to climate change, steps towards a greener economy, and the recovery of the economies post the pandemic. I was very happy to see that Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam was the most popular subject, and this is a reflection of what we as seniors in the society have taught to the students, the good values and the ethos that they just exhibited from the stage today. So congratulations to all the youngsters who put in such a good show today. Well, students, opportunities do not knock at your doors time and again, but when they do so, you must grab the opportunity. Today's platform was provided to you by Doordarshan and All India Radio, and while taking this platform, you must have researched and rehearsed the topics which you presented on the platform today. So that means you went in for a domain which was actually not yours. You studied something which was apart from your own subject. It increased your knowledge. When it increased your knowledge, it increased your, you can say, it developed your personality. 2 decades hence, we can say that academic excellence was enough for success in life. But today, certain life skills are very, very important to be successful in life, and public speaking and the art of communication is one of those important life skills. So when you take up such opportunities, you are actually doing yourself a favor, you are polishing your own personality. Thank you, Gurbinder Singh ji, for choosing our college and giving these students this opportunity to take part in this important event.
बहरहाल कार्यक्रम प्रमुख आकाशवाणी शिमला अनिल वर्मा जी से मेरा आग्रह है, परिणाम लेकर वो आ चुके हैं मंच पर।
बहुत ही रोचक आज की प्रतियोगिता रही, और सबसे ज़्यादा जो देखने वाली बात ये रही कि सभी हमारी लड़की प्रतिभागिताएं थी, लड़के कोई नहीं थे। तो महिला सशक्तिकरण का जो एक आज प्रदर्शन हुआ है वो वाकई में देखने को मिला है हमें। हम तो चाहेंगे कि लड़के लोग भी आगे हैं, हालांकि ऑडियंस में मैं देख रहा हूँ कि सब काफ़ी लड़के हैं यहाँ पे। बहरहाल हमारा आज की जो प्रतियोगिता थी बहुत अच्छी रही। मेरा निवेदन रहेगा निर्णायक मंडल आपके जो मेंबर्स हैं हमारे, प्लीज़ काइंडली स्टेज पे आएँ। डीडीजी साहब, प्रिंसिपल मैम, हम जो है इनाम बांटेंगे बच्चों को। बहरहाल जो सेकंड कॉन्सोलेशन प्राइज़ जा रहा है वो जा रहा है RKMV के पारुल झरांगटा जी को।
सांत्वना पुरस्कार प्रदान करने के लिए हमारा निवेदन है वाइस प्रिंसिपल कोटचेरा कॉलेज डॉक्टर शिखा जोशी जी से।
पहला कॉन्सोलेशन प्राइज़ हो चुका है यहाँ पे अनाउंस। अब जो दूसरा कॉन्सोलेशन प्राइज़ है वो जा रहा है सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस गवर्नमेंट डिग्री कॉलेज संजौली के आस्था शर्मा जी को। तो आज का जो थर्ड प्राइज़ है वो जा रहा है सेंट बीट्स कॉलेज की निकिता ठाकुर।
श्री जवाहर कौल जी जो कि जजेस के रूप में हमारे सामने थे एक जाने माने कलाकार हैं आकाशवाणी दूरदर्शन के, बहुत अच्छे न्यूज़ रीडर भी रहे हैं, एक बहुत ही बुलंद आवाज़ के मालिक आरती सूद जी, जो कि एक बहुत बड़े पद पर कार्यरत हैं और आकाशवाणी दूरदर्शन की जानी पहचानी आवाज़ है, बहुत से नाटकों में भी इन्होंने भाग लिया है। अमरेंद्र कुमार जी, डीडी हिमाचल के कार्यक्रम प्रमुख, कार्यक्रम के शुरू में भी हमने कहा था कि एक हमारे गुरुतुल्य हैं, बोलना सिखाते हैं लोगों को और बहुत लंबा अनुभव है इनका प्रसारण विधा में। मैं एक बार पुनः श्री गुरविंदर सिंह जी से आग्रह करूंगा कि यहाँ की प्राचार्य महोदया, जिनका आशीर्वाद स्नेह हमें हमेशा मिलता रहा, उन्हें भी आकाशवाणी की ओर से स्मृति चिन्ह देकर सम्मानित करें। कार्यक्रम प्रमुख आकाशवाणी शिमला अनिल वर्मा जी एक स्मृति चिन्ह भेंट कर रहे हैं वाइस प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर शिखा जोशी जी को।